John's spaceship landed softly on the strange planet. The sky was a deep purple color, and two suns shone bright. The air smelled fresh and different. John stepped out and looked around. The ground was covered with tall grass that waved like a green ocean. Strange birds flew above, singing sounds John had never heard before. John was an explorer from Earth. He had traveled far to learn about new worlds and meet new people. This planet was called Zaros. People said it was full of mysteries. John was excited but also a little nervous. He did not know what to expect. As John walked through the grass, he saw a figure in the distance. It was a woman. She stood tall and strong. She wore heavy armor from head to toe. The armor was shiny and looked very old but well cared for. The woman's eyes were sharp and bright behind the helmet. She held a long spear in her hand. John slowed. Down. He had heard stories about warriors like her. People said she never took off her armor. It was said the armor was part of who she was. Some warned John to be careful. They said, "You would not want to meet her without her armor." The woman noticed John. She did not seem afraid. Instead, she walked toward him with slow steps. Her armor made soft sounds as she moved. John tried to look brave, but his heart beat fast. "Hello," John said carefully. "I am John from Earth." The woman stopped and looked at him. She spoke with a strong voice. "I am Mira. Why have you come to Zaros?" John smiled. "I want to learn about your world and your people. I want to understand how you live." Mira studied John. Then she said, "Many visitors come with words, but no respect. You seem different." John nodded. "I want to be a friend." Mira did not smile, but she did not look angry. She pointed to a small village nearby. "If you want to learn, come with me." John followed Mira through the grass. They walked in silence for a while. John looked at her armor. It covered everything. Her head, arms, and legs. The armor had many marks and scratches. It told stories of battles and long journeys. After some time, they reached the village. It was small and simple. Houses made of wood and stone stood close together. People looked at Mira and John. Some children ran to Mira and touched her armor with wonder. One old man came forward. He bowed his head to Mira. "You return again," he said quietly. Mira nodded. "I protect this land." John watched carefully. He wanted to learn about this place and its people. He asked Mira, "What do you protect against?" Mira's eyes darkened. "Enemies come from the dark side of the planet. They want to take our land and our homes. I wear this armor to keep them away." John asked, "Do you ever take off the armor?" Mira's voice became soft but firm. "You would not want me without armor." John smiled and said, "I never noticed the armor. I saw you, not the armor." Mira looked surprised. She did not speak for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Maybe you are different." John felt hope. He wanted to know more. That night, the village held a small feast. People shared food and stories. John listened as Mira told stories of past battles and courage. He saw a side of her not covered by armor, a strong and caring leader. As the sun set, John looked at Mira and thought about the words she said. He wanted to help her protect this world and to learn her true story. The night was calm. The stars shone bright in the sky. John knew this was only the beginning of his adventure on Zaros. And Mira, with or without armor, was the key to many secrets yet to be found. Next morning, the sun rose bright over the village. John woke early and stepped outside his small room. The air was cool and fresh. He saw Mira already outside, sitting by a fire. She wore her armor as usual, but something about her seemed calm and less tense than the day before. John walked to her. "Good morning, Mira," he said softly. Mira looked up and gave a small nod. "Good morning, John." They sat near the fire. John felt curious and wanted to learn more about her. "Mira," he began, "why do you always wear your armor? Do you never get tired of it?" Mira looked at the fire, then back at John. "The armor is not just protection. It is part of my duty. It keeps me strong. It hides the pain inside." John listened carefully. "Pain inside?" Mira took a deep breath. "Long ago, I lost many friends and family in battles. The armor helped me to keep going. It made me feel safe. Without it, I'm afraid I would fall apart." John understood a little more. He wanted to help her feel strong without the armor. "You know, sometimes people are stronger when they show their true selves. Not just the armor." Mira looked at him with sharp eyes. "You say you never noticed the armor yesterday. How is that possible? It is always there." John smiled. "Because I saw you first. I saw the person behind the armor. The real Mira." Mira was quiet. For the first time, she did not hide her face behind the helmet. Slowly, she lifted the visor and let the sunlight touch her face. Her skin was strong, but soft, with small scars that told stories of many fights. Her eyes were bright and full of life. John felt a warm feeling inside. "You are brave, Mira, not because of the armor, but because of who you are." Mira's lips curved slightly. "Maybe you are the first to see me like this." Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside the village. People shouted and ran toward the center. Mira stood up quickly. "Something is wrong," she said. John followed her. They saw smoke rising near the edge of the village. Some men and women gathered, looking worried. An elder stepped forward. "Enemies are coming," he said. "They have crossed the border. We must prepare." Mira's face became serious. "John, you must stay safe here. This is not your fight." John shook his head. "No, I want to help. I am here now. I will fight with you." Mira studied him. "Very well. But stay close to me." The village began to prepare. Mira gathered warriors and gave orders. John watched how strong and confident she was. Even without the armor's full weight, her spirit was fierce. As night came, the enemy forces approached. Shadows moved silently through the trees. Mira and John stood at the front of the village, ready to defend their home. The battle was fierce. The enemy was many, but the villagers fought bravely. Mira led with skill and courage. John used his knowledge and tools from Earth to help. At one point, Mira's armor was hit by a strong blow. A piece broke off and fell to the ground. For a moment, she stood without full protection. John saw her face clearly. No fear, only focus. Mira fought with her bare hands and the spear. John helped by distracting enemies and giving support. Together, they pushed the attackers back. After hours of battle, the enemy retreated into the dark forest. The village was safe for now. People cheered and thanked Mira and John. Mira looked at her broken armor. "This armor has protected me for many years, but today it was not enough." John stepped closer. "You were enough, Mira, with or without the armor." Mira smiled softly. "Maybe it is time to learn to trust myself more." John felt proud to stand beside her. He knew their journey together was just beginning. The battle had shown him the true strength of Mira, not in her armor, but in her heart. That night, the village held a quiet celebration. John and Mira talked late under the stars. They shared stories and dreams. John promised to help Mira face her fears and protect her world. Mira looked at John with new hope. "Thank you for seeing me." John smiled. "Always, Mira. We are stronger together." The stars shone brightly as two friends prepared for the challenges ahead. The planet Zaros was full of danger and mystery, but with courage and trust, they would face whatever came next. After the battle, the village began to heal. People repaired their homes and helped those who were hurt. John and Mira worked side by side. John used his earth tools to fix broken things. Mira trained the villagers to be ready for any new danger. 1. Morning. Mira asked John to come with her. They walked to a quiet place near the edge of the forest. Mira stopped and looked at the tall trees. "John, I want to show you something important," she said. John looked at her with interest. "What is it?" Mira reached into her armor and pulled out a small, glowing device. It was round and fit in her hand. "This is my power core," she explained. "It gives my armor strength and special abilities. Without it, the armor is just metal." John studied the device. It pulsed softly with light. "It looks like advanced technology." Mira nodded. "It is. But it also holds my people's history and spirit. The power core connects me to my ancestors and gives me courage." John felt respect for Mira. She was not just a warrior. She carried the hopes of her people in this small object. "What happens if the core is lost?" Mira's face grew serious. "Then the armor loses power, and I lose part of myself." John asked, "Have you ever had to fight without your armor and core?" Mira looked away. "Once. Long ago I was captured by enemies. They took my armor and core. I felt weak and alone, but I survived by using my mind and heart." John admired her strength. "You are brave in many ways." Mira smiled faintly. "Thank you. But I still fear the day I will have to fight without my armor." John placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be afraid. I will be here. We will face those days together." Mira looked at him and saw kindness in his eyes. She felt a little lighter inside. "Maybe I can learn to trust more than just my armor." John smiled. "We all have more strength than we know." As the days passed, John and Mira grew closer. John learned more about the planet and its people. Mira taught him how to use a spear and how to move quietly in the forest. John shared stories of Earth and showed her simple tools that made life easier. One afternoon, while exploring, they heard a strange sound. It was a soft humming coming from a cave hidden by vines. Curious, they moved closer. Inside the cave, the walls glowed with crystals that shined in many colors. The humming grew louder. At the center, they found an ancient machine. It looked old, but still worked. Mira touched the machine carefully. Suddenly, a hologram appeared. It showed images of warriors wearing armor like hers. The hologram told a story of a great war and a promise to protect the planet forever. John watched in wonder. "This must be where your armor comes from." Mira nodded. "Yes. Our ancestors built this to protect Zaros from dark forces." The machine began to send a signal. John and Mira realized it was a call for help. The signal came from deep inside the planet. They knew they had to find out what was happening. Mira said, "This may be a new threat. We must be ready." John agreed. "We will face it together." That night, they prepared their gear and made plans. The villagers trusted them and gave their support. Before they left, Mira took off her helmet. She looked at John with trust. "Thank you for standing with me." John smiled. "Always, Mira. We will protect this world side by side." As they walked into the dark forest, the stars above shone like watchful eyes. The adventure was far from over. John and Mira were ready for the challenges ahead. They knew the power of friendship and courage was stronger than any armor. John and Mira entered the dark forest with quiet steps. The trees were tall and close together. The air smelled of earth and wet leaves. Shadows moved gently as the wind passed through the branches. The forest felt alive, watching their every move. Mira held her spear tightly. John carried a small tool that could send signals back to the village. They followed the glowing path left by the ancient machine's signal. After walking for hours, they reached a clearing. In the center, a strange light shone from the ground. John bent down to look closer. It was a small crystal, glowing with a soft blue light. Mira knelt beside him. "This is a sign of the dark forces," she said. "They are growing stronger." John touched the crystal carefully. "What do we do now?" Mira stood up. "We find their source and stop them before they harm the village." Suddenly, they heard voices coming from the trees. Mira raised her spear. John held his tool ready. From the shadows, a group of strange creatures appeared. They were tall and thin with gray skin and glowing eyes. Their clothes looked torn and dirty. The creatures spoke in a harsh language. Mira did not understand the words, but she felt their anger. She moved forward and said firmly, "Leave this place. You are not welcome." One creature stepped forward. It spoke in broken words that John could understand. "We seek power. The planet's energy is ours." John looked at Mira. "They want to take the planet's energy?" Mira said, "This energy belongs to all who live here. You cannot take it by force." The creatures growled and stepped closer. Mira prepared to fight. John knew he had to help. He used his tool to send a bright light toward the creatures. They covered their eyes and stepped back. Mira took the chance. She charged forward, using her spear with skill and speed. The creatures tried to fight, but Mira and John worked as a team. Slowly, they pushed the creatures away from the clearing. After the fight, Mira looked at John. "They are dangerous. We must warn the village." John nodded. "We should hurry." They ran back through the forest, following the path to the village. The sun was setting and the sky turned orange and red. The village people were waiting. Mira told them about the creatures and the growing threat. The elders gathered to decide what to do. Mira spoke with strength. "We must prepare to defend our home. This is not a fight we can avoid." John added, "I have some ideas from Earth that can help. We can build better defenses and learn to fight together." The villagers agreed. They worked day and night to build walls and watchtowers. Mira trained the warriors, teaching them new skills. John helped create simple tools that made work easier. One evening, Mira sat with John by the fire. She took off her helmet and looked tired. "I never thought the danger would come so close." John reached for her hand. "We will face it together. You are not alone." Mira smiled. "Thank you, John. You have changed my view. The armor is important, but courage and friendship matter more." John looked into her eyes. "I believe in you, Mira." The night was calm, but everyone knew the battle was coming. John and Mira prepared their minds and hearts. They were ready to protect their home and each other. The next morning, a scout ran into the village. "The creatures are coming," he shouted. Mira stood up quickly. "Everyone get ready!" The villagers took their places. John checked his tools and looked at Mira. "We can do this," Mira nodded. "For our home." The sky was bright as the enemy approached. The battle would test their strength and courage like never before, but John and Mira were ready to fight for the future of Zaros. The sun rose slowly over the village of Zaros. The people prepared for the battle ahead. Mira stood on the highest hill, looking over the land. Her armor shone in the early light, but something was different in her eyes. She was no longer afraid. She felt a quiet strength inside. John stood beside her. He held a small device from Earth that could send signals and light. "Mira, the villagers are ready. They trust you." Mira smiled softly. "They must be brave. This is more than a fight. It is a test of our spirit." The enemy was coming. The strange creatures from the forest were growing in number. Their glowing eyes shone like stars in the dark. But the villagers were ready. Walls and watchtowers stood tall. Warriors held spears, bows, and simple weapons. John had helped build traps and alarms to warn of any attack. Suddenly, the forest shook with movement. The creatures appeared, moving, fast like shadows. They wanted to take the land and the power the planet held. Mira raised her spear. "Stand strong! Protect our home!" The battle began. The air was filled with the sounds of shouting and fighting. Mira moved with skill and courage. Her spear struck with power. John helped by using his tools to confuse the enemy. Bright lights flashed and loud sounds scared the creatures. The villagers fought together, their hearts strong. At one point, Mira's armor was hit by a heavy blow. A large crack ran across the chest plate. The power core inside glowed weakly. Mira felt a sharp pain but did not stop. She fought harder to protect her people. John saw the damage and rushed to her side. "Mira, your armor is breaking." Mira shook her head. "The armor is strong, but I am stronger." With a sudden move, she pushed back the enemy and saved a group of children trapped behind the wall. John watched in awe. Mira was fearless and full of heart. The battle lasted for hours. Both sides tired but did not give up. The creatures tried to break the village defenses, but the villagers held firm. The traps and alarms gave them an advantage. John's ideas helped more than he expected. As the sun set, the creatures began to retreat. The village was safe for now. Mira stood tall but weary. She looked at her broken armor and the fading light of the power core. She knew this was not the end. John placed a hand on her shoulder. "You fought bravely, with or without armor. You are a true leader." Mira looked at him and smiled. "Maybe it is time to learn to fight without the armor, to trust myself." John nodded. "I will help you. We will face whatever comes next together." That night, the village held a quiet celebration. People thanked Mira and John for their courage. But Mira could not stop thinking about the future. She wondered what would happen if the power core stopped working completely. John sat with her under the stars. "You don't have to carry this alone." Mira looked at the sky. "The armor has been my shield and my burden. I want to find my own strength." John smiled. "And you will. I believe in you." They talked late into the night. The stars shone like guides in the dark. John and Mira knew the road ahead would be hard, but together they could face anything. The next day, Mira visited the ancient cave where the glowing machine was. She touched the walls and felt the energy. She knew the power of the planet was in her hands. But she also knew that true power came from courage, friendship, and hope. John joined her and said, "Whatever happens, I will stand by your side." Mira smiled again. "Thank you, John. Together, we will protect Zaros and its people." The planet was quiet once more, but the story was far from over. The bond between John and Mira had grown stronger. The adventure to protect their home had just begun. Days passed in the village of Zaros. The people worked hard to rebuild and prepare. Mira trained the warriors every morning. John helped with new tools and ideas from Earth. The bond between them grew stronger. They trusted each other like true friends. One clear morning, Mira and John went back to the ancient cave. The glowing machine was quiet now. Mira touched the power core she carried. It pulsed softly with light. She looked at John and said, "The armor holds great power, but it can fail." John nodded. "True strength comes from within, not just from armor or machines." Mira smiled. "I want to learn to fight without the armor, to trust my own strength." John said, "I will help you train. We can find new ways to protect the village together." Mira felt hope. She wanted to be more than a warrior in armor. She wanted to be a leader who could inspire others. That day, they started training. John taught Mira how to use her body and mind to fight. They practiced moving quickly and quietly. Mira learned to use simple weapons without the heavy armor. At first it was hard. She felt weak and unsure. John encouraged her. You can do this. You are stronger than you think. Mira worked hard every day. She fell many times, but never gave up. John was always there to help her stand again. The villagers watched with surprise. They saw Mira without her full armor, moving fast and strong. She smiled more, and her eyes shone with new confidence. One evening, a messenger arrived from a distant part of the planet. He brought news that the dark creatures were gathering again. This time, they planned a bigger attack. Mira listened carefully. We must be ready. This will be the greatest test for us. John said, Your new skills will help. We have also built better defenses. The village prepared quickly. Men, women, and children all helped. John and Mira led the training and plans. Before the battle, Mira removed her helmet and showed her face to the people. We must stand together with courage and hope, she said. The villagers cheered. The day of the attack came. The dark creatures came in large numbers. The sky darkened as they approached. Mira and John stood side by side at the front line. Mira wore only light armor and held her spear. John had his tools ready. The battle was fierce. Mira moved with skill and speed. She used her new training to dodge attacks and lead the warriors. John helped with his tools, sending lights and sounds to confuse the enemy. The villagers fought with courage. They defended their homes and families. In the heat of battle, Mira faced the leader of the dark creatures. He was tall and strong, with glowing eyes. They fought with power and skill. Mira remembered her training. She used quick moves and her spear to block and strike. John sent a bright light that helped her win the fight. The dark creatures began to retreat. The village was safe again. Mira stood tall, proud of her new strength. She looked at John and smiled. Thank you for helping me find my true power. John smiled back. You had it all along, Mira. That night, the village celebrated. People were happy and hopeful. Mira and John knew the journey was not over, but they were ready for whatever came next. The stars shone bright in the sky. Two friends stood together, ready to protect their home and each other. The morning sun shone brightly over the village of Zaros. The air was fresh and filled with hope. Mira stood on the highest hill without her armor. Her face was clear and strong. The villagers gathered below, watching her with respect and trust. John stood beside her. He smiled and felt proud. Together they had faced many dangers and learned much. Now was the time to show the true strength of the people of Zaros. Mira raised her hand and spoke to the crowd. Friends, today I stand before you without my armor. For many years I wore it to protect myself and this land. But today I want you to see the person behind the armor. I want you to know that true courage comes from the heart. The villagers listened quietly. Some had never seen Mira without her armor. They saw the scars on her face and the strength in her eyes. John stepped forward and said, Mira has shown us all what it means to be brave. She has taught us that armor can protect the body, but courage and friendship protect the soul. The crowd cheered. Children smiled and ran to Mira. The elders nodded with approval. Mira felt a deep warmth inside. She knew this was the beginning of a new time for Zaros. That day, the village celebrated with songs and stories. John and Mira shared their adventures and dreams. They spoke of hope and unity. The people promised to stand together against any future threats. Weeks passed peacefully. The dark creatures had not returned. The planet seemed calm and alive. Mira trained the villagers not just in fighting, but also in kindness and trust. John helped build schools and places where people could learn and grow. One evening, Mira and John sat by the fire. Mira looked at the stars and said, "Thank you for believing in me." John smiled. "Thank you for trusting yourself." Mira took his hand. "Together, we are stronger." The stars twinkled above as two friends dreamed of a bright future. The story of Mira and John became a legend, a tale of courage, trust, and the power of the human heart. The planet Zaros was no longer just a place of battle and fear. It was a home filled with hope and light. And as long as people like Mira and John stood together, nothing could ever break their spirit.